Hello and welcome to the Magical Midlife Podcast, where you get a refreshing, uplifting and optimistic perspective on life in your 40s and 50s. I'm your host, Lindsay DeSwart, and I'm delighted that you've joined us here today, so let's jump right in. Hi and welcome to the show today. Today I'm really excited to introduce our guest, Allie Hill from Allie Hill Coaching. Allie is a coach for empty nest women and has been for some time since her daughter left. And you're going to hear all about this in her story today. And you're also going to hear about the new book she's just released, which is so well and truly needed. So I'm really excited that she can tell you about that. Just before we jump into the episode, I'd love to invite you to a new mini course that's just been released, and it's called Rediscover Your Purpose. And it gives you the opportunity to look at where you are now, if you're in that empty nest phase and dealing with some of the big emotions that come with that, and allows you just to work through the small mini course so you can actually find a new purpose and move forward in this next chapter. So I think it's safe to say that after this episode and with all the resources that we have for you, you're going to love the show, and I'm fairly sure you're going to be able to find your next chapter and find your purpose after this. Okay, let's get on with the show. So, hi, Allie. Welcome to the show. It's so lovely to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. It's so nice to be here with you.
You are very, very welcome. So, we are talking about one of my very favorite subjects, which is empty nesting. It's a big old topic. So what I would love to do first of all, though, is can you tell us a little bit about you and your background, and then we can start talking about empty nesting, because then we've both got context as to how we've lived it.
Absolutely. So I came to empty nesting by way of having one child. I have a daughter who's 24, about to turn 25. And prior to being a full-time mom, I was a journalist. Mostly my career was in LA. It was a fashion, sports. It was a super fun time in my 20s, and moved back to Colorado, where I'm from, late 20s, and ended up finding my husband, getting married. Still wanted to be a journalist, but the job was too far away. So ended up being a full-time mom, which seemed to be the right thing for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Worked myself, 24/7 into this child, and being the room parent and the everything that you could ever volunteer kind of thing. So when she left for college, at 18, after 18 years, or in this case, 6 years ago, I was left without a job and an identity and a purpose. And that's kind of where I started my emptiness journey.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, because the other things that get thrown in there just to, sort of mess up the whole situation, was there any menopause going on at that stage?
I would say at least perimenopause. I mean, my husband would probably say, oh, yes, there was all of that. But I think that there was definitely, definitely having some hormone issues and just all the issues. I think my anxiety came up. I mean, things that I just hadn't even known were issues were front and center, staring me down.
Yeah. And how about the relationship, actually? Because your husband, you just mentioned your husband there. So what state was that in at the same time?
Well, I guess the good news is I had the forethought to think, I think when my daughter was a junior, so grade 11, to go into therapy and say, with my husband, and say, our daughter's about to leave. I feel like we haven't really been connected for a long time, or at least she's the glue in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we should, make sure that we're going to be okay. As it turned out, those sessions ended up being more like catching my husband up to having a 18-year-old. I sort of protected him from all the, okay, by the way, she's dating boys. We're not going to talk about the sex, things like that. At that point, I needed to get him, caught up to speed so that we were going to be going on this next leg of the journey together. So that was good, but I'm not going to say that there wasn't some Hi, who are you? Wow.
Yeah.
Do we still have the magic, or was it just our daughter in the middle holding us together? There's definitely some conversations. On my part, I would say, I think he thought everything was great.
What inspired you to go and get therapy early on? Because that's really wise. I mean, that would save, I'm sure, a lot of marriages if that became kind of the norm. And I don't
I
know, is it the norm in America? It's certainly not the norm in England.
No, no, no. That was me. I think it's me trying to control things truly. Also, she was going to fly the next and go to university. So what could I control? I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I've been in and out of therapy since my 20s, off and on, depending on which issue is coming up with a big family situation. And I just think it's great to get help, to get outside perspective with a professional.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of what led us there. And my husband sort of went, oh, he's so great in that he usually goes along with these things, but it's not easy. It's that stuff comes up.
Yeah, it does.
Um, yeah, that you kind of didn't even know was there, and not even necessarily always between us, but maybe even the sort of triangular dynamic of having three in the family.
Mhm.
So really gave us an opportunity to look at things before she left. But it helped us. It didn't necessarily help me. Um, I
Okay.
needed, I needed, I'm not sure what, I think I needed me now. I needed me back then. Um,
Nice.
I would say that when Izzy left, I hadn't fully formed, as I said before, an identity or a purpose or a calling or anything other than being Izzy's mom, which
Yeah.
is, kind of a sad and embarrassing to say, but that's the truth of the matter.
Well, you say it's embarrassing to say. I think a lot of women would actually put their hand up to feeling exactly the same.
Yeah. And they have, which is, I think why, I started coaching empty nest moms. Became a life coach 6 years ago and dabbled in it, really did it more for my own mindset
Mhm.
for the first couple of years. And then 2020 became an empty nest life coach and really focused in on this sort of demographic. And I went from maybe 100 people following me to maybe 24,000 or something. I think that speaks to
Holy.
this community. Like there really is a large community of women who do have their hand in the air saying, I need support. I'm struggling. This is hard.
Mm. And from all over the world, do you find?
All over the world. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, did you have friends that were going through the same thing at the same time?
I thought I did, but as it turns out, kind of like when you have kids and you think that you're all in it and the kids are the same age and you're going to go through the same thing, it's almost like same storm, different boat. So my girlfriends who had daughters, Izzy's age, they had siblings, they had other kids.
Yeah.
So when my one and only left the nest, I thought we were in it, but they still had their other two or three kids left. So no, I didn't have another mom to chat with about this at the time.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole different issue, isn't it? I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
really lonely.
yeah. And that's the thing. It can be really lonely, can't it, at that stage?
Yes.
So, what did you do to kind of find yourself through the whole thing? Because, as you say, you kind of needed you to be there. So, yeah, what steps did you take to try and find yourself again?
Today. So really what it was, I would say that was 2017 when Izzy went off to university. I lucked out in that I was open to anything. I will say that was one good quality that I had. I've always been a searcher and a learner, but I was like, okay, I'm sure that if a baby had been dropped on my doorstep, then I would have been like, okay, yay, we start all over again. Here we go. But what did drop in my lap was Martha Beck, who used to be Oprah's life coach.
Yeah.
Somebody let me know that she was starting a new program of coaching, and it was starting like literally in 2 weeks. So I
Wow.
checked that out and I enrolled in her program. And that gave me a purpose to get up in the morning, to do the classes, to do the courses, watch the videos, and connect with other like-minded women. Definitely not empty nest moms.
Mm.
I feel like they were all 35, but it didn't matter. They had a passion for learning, and that it gave my day structure, which is, I would say, key.
Hmm. Now, because I've heard you speak before, I know you talk about, meditation and, all self-care practices. Were you doing that sort of thing before?
No, I maybe a little bit haphazardly. I've always loved to dabble. So I think that I would meditate here and there. I would never really been a yoga. I'm completely inflexible. So nothing like that. But yes, exercise, but never a consistent schedule. But with this certification, I think that it gave me some structure. And no, I would say the meditation has come in the last 5 years, 6 years on a very consistent basis.
So one of the questions I normally ask people, is was there somebody who walked by your side? And it certainly sounds like the introduction to Martha Beck served that
I
role.
absolutely, Martha Beck was probably the first breadcrumb, but it was probably in 2020 when I was going to say lucked into, but again, it's keeping your eyes open for the sparks and what's interesting. And I enrolled in another certification for life coaching, and this was through the Life Coach School. I was put in a group with 9 other women that we were in a program for 6 months, met at least 2 or 3 times a week. That group really they were my people. We had a singular purpose in becoming life coaches, but I just learned so much from them. And again, they were in their 30s and 40s, and maybe one other woman was in her 50s, but no, yeah, maybe two. So 3 out of the 10 of us. But it was a great dynamic because
Mhm.
some were still having babies, and we were going through the very similar process and still could bring our own unique perspectives. I think we really learned a lot from each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the ultimate, because I run women's circles, and the whole nature, the whole premise of this podcast was that we would have, it's a women's circle, that we all share information, we all share knowledge, we all share wisdom. No one person, is any higher up the hierarchy than anybody else. So that just speaks testaments to me of how powerful women's circles and women's communities are when there is that sole focus.
Yes. I I think there's nothing like a group of women. It would always be my choice for learning, for growing, for supporting, and for your listeners to be searching that out, to be looking for that. That's an absolutely number one recommendation.
So tell me a little bit more about now how your life is different compared to, I mean, obviously when you were playing full-time mum, we're playing, right, when you were being full-time mum, as if it's a game. When you were full-time mum, how were you different as a person?
I look back on that version of myself. Well, I try not to. I just was about to catch myself. I mean, there is compassion and love. There's a little bit of judgment. Um, I I was so I was so dictated by those around me, and I don't know what your experience or your listeners' experience has been about the moms at school. And oh,
I think that's various.
I mean, it
Tell me
just
more.
oh my goodness. Well, I started my first book was called The Yummy Mummies, and I only wrote a few chapters of it because it actually came out in the UK before I could finish it. But
Right.
it's kind of about, school drop off and the almost being swept up in the popular group of the mummies that go to tea, and then what are we wearing and how we're dressing our kids, and then as it progressed, and then we went to the next version of elementary and middle school and high school, and the stakes got higher, and did you have your kids in the exact right programs, and were they taking Mandarin? Did you get into the elite lacrosse program? I look at myself, I was ping-ponging back in between expectations of what I thought I should be doing and all the people. And I want to be clear, I'm not blaming anybody else in this, like everybody else was doing the best they could. But I did not have the solid core that I like to think that I have now. Then I think I was a pretty good mom, but I was also at the behest of whoever was talking in my ear, or what expectation or what hurdle I thought I needed to jump over. So I was exhausted.
You see, I think that's fascinating because while you were in sort of you've experienced a very supportive women's network, it can also play the other way, can't it? It can be quite destructive.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, and I wish I could go back as this version of myself, and I wonder if I would do it differently. Um, I don't know. I still think I lead with my heart,
Mm,
as I did then, and I think that there was a lot of people pleasing, which thank goodness goes away, in your 50s.
mm,
That is a gift, but I don't know, it's just something you have to go through, and you can make new decisions. But I will say, I feel like now there are amazing groups of women that one can find if you search, and very supportive,
mm.
luckily.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did your daughter make of your transformation? Was she even aware of it?
I would say that Izzy, when she left for university, was rightfully so all about Izzy. You know,
Yeah.
they are, I think, as our kids fly the nest, and whatever their adventure is, be it university or, job or military or travel, whatever it is, it's so new and uncharted that they are really thinking of themselves. So there
Mm.
wasn't a lot of how's mom doing? What's mom up to? I would say it wasn't until her sophomore, junior year, when sort of my business had taken off and I was coaching all the time and I was just very busy. She'd come home for a break and say, let's go get our nails done. And I'd say, oh, I have a small break between 11 and 1, but that's it. And, and we would go on, and she said at the end of that break, I liked you better before. And I said, what do you
Really?
mean? And she said, you were more available. I could come home and you said yes to everything. Now I have to schedule time with you. And I said, and
Mm.
do you, do you really want that for me? And she goes, no, no, no. I like that you're doing stuff for you. I think it's good for you. I'm just saying for me. So she was able to have that awareness that I was a 24/7 mom. I don't think I said no very often. And I wouldn't recommend that. No's a good word. The kids need to hear no. Certainly no to drugs, no to this, no to that. But if I could make something happen, I said yes a lot.
Because that's the thing. I mean, that's certainly something that I hear from mums, and they're so sad about the kids going, and they are so almost like stuck in this hole, and they just can't see what's on the other side of it. But that's the thing, the kids are gone. They're
Right.
doing exactly what you brought them up to do,
Right.
and you wouldn't want anything else for them.
I hear a lot of that mostly through DMs and comments in my Instagram
Mm,
about I'll post something and I will have comments saying, I just want them to come back. I just want them under my roof again. I
mm,
just want it to be how it used to be. And I think that they really mean that. I do
mm,
think that that is from the heart. But I think if they could really truly think about the long game, that isn't what you want for your child. You want it because you knew how to do that. You felt useful. You
mm.
felt purposeful. And it is now incumbent on you. I say this with all the love and compassion, um, that it's also right for you to find your next chapter.
Mm,
And, for some, it's being a grandparent, but, take that love and purpose and all that passion that you focused almost with blinders on into your children and try to take even just a little 5% degree shift to putting it on yourself.
Mm.
And well, what could possibly make you happy now?
I mean, I'm all for women starting businesses
Me too.
because I think you're growing something and you're finding a structure in your day. You are finding a sense of purpose. You are then obviously creating income, which can only be a good thing.
Right.
Um, and then also you're connecting with other people.
Absolutely. I think that that's fantastic if women can do that. I have to say, I was so naive when I became a coach. I didn't think about the second part. It's kind of like when you write the book, you forget about the promotion, or the marketing and all that. The same thing was when I became a life coach. I'm so focused on that goal that then I forgot there's the secondary part about, oh, by the way, I need to go find clients now. I
Yeah.
need to go get the word out. And so but what a great way to learn a new skill set and meet new people and expand and grow. It's very exciting if you let it be.
So I think there's kind of, to me, it feels like there's a number of sort of different parts to it. There's the almost like the grieving, the fact that the kids have gone and that
100%.
was a part of your life. And then how would you describe the next phase?
Yeah, so I think you really touched on something important, Lindsay, is absolutely number one, feel your feelings. Like
Mm,
do not, I don't advocate for pushing them down, getting too busy, resisting them, and feel them like you would I like to think of feelings like storms. So or the weather. So you're not going to get stuck in this period of grieving if you feel your feelings. Let the tears come, all the feelings, and then let that pass. Even maybe, specify, okay, I'm going to do this for the next 10 minutes, half hour, but then go for a walk, move your
mm,
body, go on to the next thing because you don't want to just get stuck there. And then think about what lit you up prior to having children. Maybe it was gardening, maybe it was reading, maybe for me, I love to play tennis. Now I play pickleball. There are little clues and breadcrumbs to what makes us feel good and could be a purpose if we are looking at the clues along the way. So that's what I would say is have an air of openness and curiosity about this next chapter so that you can be open to different things that might be coming your way.
yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it. It was funny actually. I was just talking with a friend this morning, and she was saying that she was going to go and have a meet with a friend that she used to live with before children. They used to share a flat in London. And I said, when I was definitely right in the midst of sort of the empty nesting, and I'm going to drop in the caveat here. So, empty nesting for me is I've got two boys who both left quite in quick succession. One went to university, and one actually came to England to play sport. So, there was one gone a few hours away, and one gone to a different continent. And it was really, really hard. Anyway, so I still have my daughter with me now, which is fantastic, and I'm grateful for every moment. However, so that's my experience of empty nesting. And it was interesting because this friend hasn't had kids. And so she doesn't really appreciate what her new life looks like. And I found it very helpful. And especially because I'd lived away for so long raising my family, I came back and met up with some school friends. And the interesting thing that I found was I'd forgotten so much of who I was before kids.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? It's like we we
Yeah.
we have amnesia. And I would encourage everyone to go back and revisit that younger self. She was
Yeah.
amazing and probably gave you great lessons and gifts along the way. And visit her. That's a great process to go through. Write a letter, maybe from yourself in your 20s to
Mm.
yourself now. Wouldn't that be an interesting,
Yeah,
lesson
an
to go
interesting
through?
perspective, because there was so much confidence and so much ambition
Mm-hmm.
and so much drive. And then obviously your life changes because you do focus everything. And let's face it, new mums have a hell of a challenge focusing and becoming that new mum because you have to put yourself on hold. And now we're coming out of the other
Absolutely.
side of it. So it's funny, you're kind of, you struggle as you're going down as a new mum, but of course everybody reads the books about it, what to expect when you're expecting. Nobody writes the book about what to
Yeah,
expect when you're coming out the other side.
right.
Until now,
Until
which
now.
brings us very nicely onto your book. So, yeah, tell me about your book.
So this was a labor of love. First of all, I want to just say, because we touched on it before, I have been wanting to write a book. That was my 20-year-old dream. It was a dream I had in my 20s. So I would say, please, everybody, revisit your
Mhm.
old dreams. They're still there. There's still a little light in your heart. Now I had written chapters of other things, but I never finished them because I think it wasn't a commanding purpose. I think once this book, I realized I wanted to write a book for empty nest moms, and then it wasn't really
Mm.
about me. It was purposeful. It was like, I'm not going to be able to coach 20,000 women. I actually resonate to the written word. I'm like, I love to be able to highlight and dog ear and all of that. So I thought, okay, all right, Allie, this is the thing. There's going to be a marriage between your writing and your coaching. Fortunately, I'd had so many amazing clients over the last, 4 or 5 years that I had great stories. Their willingness to share with me. And so last month I was published as I have my book right here. It's called The Girlfriend's Guide to Empty Nesting. And it's very exciting. I love the title. It's exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Women getting together over a coffee, or for me, a tea, and talking about all the things, loving and supporting each other.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, first of all, massive congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is, I will actually, I'm actually can take that one on. I have trouble with sometimes receiving, but I am so proud of myself that I
Yeah.
actually wrote and got the book published. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, I'd say woo, woo, woo. That's fantastic.
Thank
It's a
you.
real achievement. But you say that you've got more books in you now. Now you've started something.
I think yes. I've been waiting for the feedback, and it's been great so far, but I'm waiting to hear like what did I miss? It was hard to end the book, honestly. There are
Hmm.
18 chapters. I kept waiting for the 20th chapter, and then I thought I almost didn't write the 20th chapter because I think there's so many more things to say. I think that I want to talk about I want to write a book of really solely devoted to moms who have the kids in the 11th and 12th year, and how they could maybe better prepare, and
Oh, good
what their
idea.
experiences are. I want to write a book maybe just for single moms, because even though there's a chapter in the book for both of those things, I think that they deserve their own books. Just
Mm,
like there's a book for when they're toddlers and they're 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds.
mm.
I think that this series, it just deserves a series, this part of our life.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So there is now a book to lead them out the other side.
There
Yay!
it
Well done, Ali.
is. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. So if you could go back to your younger self, who would be giving who advice?
Oh my goodness. If I could go back to my younger self, I would be giving myself, I think I like this version of Allie, this
Right.
50 plus version, because as we talked about, there's a confidence in the 20s, but for me, it was more bravado than I would say earned lessons, life lessons, and true compassion for myself. And I would just go back and say, listen, you've got a long road ahead of you. Enjoy it. Do don't live in fear. I think that was one big thing I learned, that I acted out of fear or made decisions from a place of fear rather than a place of love. And I would take a dose of confidence and courage and lead with love from 20s on up till now. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah. Actually, one of the books that I always recommend is a book, and it was probably my first, a bit like your Martha Beck moment. It was one of my first real perspective shifts, and it was called Love is the Answer.
Oh, I don't know. I felt like I'd read every single personal development self-help book there is. Okay, I think I missed that. Love is the answer. Thank you.
Love is the Answer. Yeah, by Gerald Jampowski. It's an old one. It's an old one, so you may even struggle to get hold of it. I don't know. Anyway, I'll send you that
Yep.
aside. But now it means that we've got books at all the different phases, because I don't want to take the focus off your book, because I'm really excited for you and really excited actually that there is this now available.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. It was published on the 20th of February and it's available Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your own neighborhood bookstore, hopefully. If you ask for it, they will get it for you.
Cool.
It's everywhere.
Fantastic. So, what's the best way for people to get hold of you?
So I think Instagram is still the best. I
Okay.
read my DMs myself. I answer every single person by myself. And that's probably the best way. You can certainly contact me through my website. Everything is Allie Hill Coaching. So
Okay.
that is amazing. But also I'm starting to do some book tours. And my most favorite thing that I found out, which is very new because I failed public speaking in university. I like to connect with people in person, one-on-one, have a real genuine conversation. That absolutely fills me up now.
Fantastic. So I've got to say, how's your daughter now that you've published a book? Is she like super proud of you?
She is. Well, she was my first reader. I had her
Oh,
A-okay because I did include some stories about her and I needed, her sign off. And she was so cute. She's not really a reader. She listens to things, audiobooks or podcasts and things like that. But I realized, she's going to read this because there's a lot about with it. She actually went through with a fine-tooth comb and would say, page 7, I think you missed a semicolon. I'm like, who are you? What's going on? I was like, thank you very much. Um, no, she's fantastic. She is probably, I don't want to say number one fan, but biggest supporter. When I did my virtual launch, through Zoom, and then 3 days later, in an in-person meet, she flew in. She lives in Arizona, so out of state, flew in
Mhm.
for all of it, and it's been amazing. And now she's an
Oh,
entrepreneur, and is launching her own clothing brand. I mean, just my husband's head is probably spinning with what's going on with his two girls these days.
yeah. I just think he's surrounded by entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
market leading women. It's fantastic.
It is. Well, I have to say he was the original entrepreneur in the family, so we learn from the best, but it's exciting and it's never too late. I think that's important to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good note, actually, just to close on, really to say if somebody is in the depths, I've got to say in the depths, but also before, because I think the anticipation of empty nest coming is almost more painful than actually when they go.
It was for me. It was for
Yeah, it
me.
was for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they're in the depths of that, what can they do to, I guess, protect themselves or to prepare themselves in a way that will help them through it?
Yeah, I think that just as you can't kind of dress rehearse tragedy or things
Mm,
that are coming your way, you can't dress rehearse exactly how you're going to feel when your kids leave the nest, but you can do certain things. You can pick your head up, especially in the last few years of high school, and look around because your kids are much more independent and
mm,
say, and ask yourself good, powerful questions. Who am I now? Who would I like to be? What do I like anymore? What interests me? what were my old dreams and desires that I put on the shelf for the last couple decades that I might want to dust off now?
Yeah, brilliant. And are those sorts of questions in your book as well?
Definitely. Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Right. So it's a bit of a working manual as well.
It is. And I think that the next thing might just be either a journal or a workbook, because I think that,
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't do the exercises when they're reading the book. But yeah.
Well, look, Allie, it's been absolutely a delight to meet you, and thank you so much for being on the show. It's been lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me. It's so nice to connect with you. And maybe if I cross the pond, we could meet up.
I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Oh, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Just before you go, can I ask a favour? Could you possibly subscribe to the show and leave a review if you really enjoyed it? Those things are absolutely the lifeblood of the show. They allow the show then to get a bit more publicity and get sent out to other people. So I'd love it if you could be a part of growing this podcast and sharing the Magical Midlife message. Now, also, we've got a new feature down in the show notes, which is an online store which now supports everything to do with Magical Midlife. There are personal and business resources on there for you, so please go and check it out. As I say, it's right down at the bottom in the show notes. There's free downloads, there's paid for downloads, there is physical books, and there's even links for coaching and business training as well. Okay, so thanks so much for being a part of the Magical Midlife, and I can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Take care.